Portland police are sharing more about their response to protests at the South Waterfront ICE facility over the weekend. Fox 12's investigative reporter Adrian Thomas joins us with more details. Adrian?
Well, Riel, Chief Bob Day spoke to reporters earlier today after a night of large protests outside the ICE facility, sharing details of 2 arrests that were made and PPB's plans moving forward. Notably, Chief Day emphasized that Portland does not need the presence of National Guard troops and that his officers have the city under control. Fox 12 was on scene last night as PPB officers descended from McAdam Avenue into the crowd of protesters outside Portland's ICE facility. Our cameras were rolling as PPB made what they said was a targeted arrest of someone suspected of assault. On Monday, Chief Bob Day said PPB made 2 arrests, 1 adult man and 1 minor, both charged with assault for allegedly beating someone on the ground with a stick at the protest. Day also saying these kinds of clashes were a major issue throughout the evening.
We know that down at the facility there are a lot of competing points of view and a lot of differences of opinion. And last night we saw that played out more in the crowd and less directed towards the issues at the facility.
Prior to police moving in and making the arrest we caught on camera, we also witnessed officers trying to defuse another confrontation between people who had gathered at the ICE facility, though it's unclear if this incident was connected to the 2 arrests. Day said these kinds of situations will always push PPB to respond.
Political violence is not acceptable. But violence in the city is not acceptable. But we will not accept or tolerate people coming down to South Waterfront for the purpose of engaging in violence.
Despite some of the violence seen, Chief Day stresses his officers have control of the city streets around the ICE facility, saying what's actually happening on the ground in Portland does not reflect the national narrative in his view.
This is one city block. City of Portland is about 145 square miles. This is one city block. And even the events that are happening down there do not rise to the level of attention that they are receiving.
Now, Chief Day added PPB will continue to monitor the area around the ICE facility, and while he is in communication with federal authorities about what his officers are doing, PPB does not assist federal authorities on federal property or with immigration enforcement. Live in studio, Adrian Thomas, Fox 12 Oregon.